Christmas used to be my favorite time of the year. I loved the lights, the music, the smell of cinnamon and pine. I loved the way the world slowed down just enough to feel warm. And most of all, I loved the way my husband used to look at me during Christmas, or at least the way I thought he looked at me. That Christmas, everything seemed perfect. Too perfect. I remember standing in our kitchen on Christmas Eve, stirring hot chocolate on the stove while snow fell softly outside the window. The house was glowing with lights. Red and gold ornaments sparkled on the tree. Wrapped gifts were stacked neatly underneath it, each one carefully placed like a promise. My husband, Daniel, walked into the kitchen wearing that familiar smile, the one I had trusted for years. "Don't peek tonight," he said casually, pouring himself a drink. "I have a surprise for you, a big one." I laughed, feeling my heart flutter. "A surprise?" I asked. "You already gave me one last week." He smiled wider, too wide. "That was nothing," he said. "This one will change everything." Change everything. Those words should have scared me, but they didn't. At the time, they filled me with excitement. I thought maybe he had planned a trip, or maybe he had finally bought the house upgrade we talked about. Maybe it was a necklace or something meaningful, something romantic. After all, we had been married for 8 years. We deserved a magical Christmas. Or so I believed. As the evening went on, little things began to feel off. Daniel kept checking his phone. Not openly, but just enough for me to notice. He would tilt the screen away when I walked past. When his phone buzzed, he stepped into the other room to reply. "Work stuff," he said quickly when I asked. "On Christmas Eve." I wanted to believe him, I really did. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself marriage meant trust, and I trusted him, or at least I thought I did. We sat down for dinner, just the two of us. Candlelight, soft music, everything looked like a perfect holiday picture. But I felt alone. Daniel barely touched his food. His leg bounced under the table. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "So," I said gently, trying to bring us back together, "what's this big surprise?" He leaned back in his chair and sighed. "You'll find out soon," he said. "I just want tonight to be special." His tone felt strange, not loving, almost nervous. I swallowed the uneasy feeling rising in my chest. After dinner, we exchanged small gifts early, just like we did every year. He gave me a scarf. Beautiful, expensive, and impersonal. It felt like something picked in a hurry, like a cover. I gave him a watch I had saved for months to buy. He thanked me, kissed my cheek, and went back to his phone. That was the moment my stomach tightened. Later that night, as we sat by the tree, he stood up suddenly. "I need to step out for a bit," he said, grabbing his coat. "Now?" I asked, confused. "It's Christmas Eve." "I won't be long," he replied. "Just trust me." Trust me. Those words echoed in my head as the door closed behind him. Minutes passed, then 30, then an hour. I sat alone in a house full of light, feeling colder with every second. I tried calling him, no answer. I texted him, no reply. My hands started to shake. Something was wrong. Deep down, I knew it. I told myself to calm down. I told myself not to jump to conclusions, but the feeling wouldn't leave. It sat heavy in my chest, like a warning I had ignored for too long. Finally, I grabbed my coat. "I'm just going to see if he's okay," I whispered to myself, even though no one was listening. I drove through quiet streets decorated with Christmas lights that suddenly felt mocking. Families laughed inside warm homes. Couples walked hand in hand. And there I was, alone, following a feeling I couldn't explain. I knew where to go before I even realized it. There was a small hotel not far from our house. A place Daniel had mentioned weeks ago, saying his company sometimes booked rooms there for meetings. I don't know why I drove there. But my hands turned the wheel anyway. The parking lot was half full. I parked and sat in my car for a moment, staring at the building. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. "You're being silly," I told myself. "You're just tired." But my feet moved before my mind could stop them. I walked inside. The lobby was quiet, warm, smelled like pine and coffee. Then I saw him. Daniel was standing near the elevator. And he wasn't alone. A woman stood close to him, too close. Her hand rested on his arm. His head was bent toward her, his voice low, intimate, the way it used to be with me. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I watched as he laughed, as she touched his chest, as he leaned in and whispered something that made her smile. That smile broke something inside me. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, I wanted to disappear. Instead, I stood there, watching my world fall apart in silence. This was the Christmas surprise. This was the truth. And I had no idea yet that this moment, this humiliation, this heartbreak, would be the beginning of the strongest version of me I had ever known. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe 5 seconds, maybe a whole minute. Time felt strange in that hotel lobby, like my brain couldn't decide whether to run or freeze. My hands went cold. My face felt hot. My heartbeat was so loud I thought people could hear it. Daniel didn't see me yet. He was too busy leaning toward her, smiling like he didn't have a wife waiting at home with candles and a Christmas tree. He looked relaxed, like this was normal. Like this was his real life. The woman laughed softly and tucked her hair behind her ear. She was pretty in a clean and polished way. She wore a beige coat and shiny boots. Her lipstick was perfect. Her nails were done. I hated myself for noticing those details. Because while I noticed her nails, my whole marriage was dying right in front of me. Daniel lifted his hand and brushed a small piece of lint from her shoulder. A gentle touch. A caring touch. A touch he hadn't given me in weeks. My throat tightened so much I could barely swallow. And then, like a bad movie I couldn't turn off, he leaned in and kissed her. Not a quick kiss. Not a friendly kiss. A kiss that lasted long enough to make my stomach turn. My vision blurred. For a moment, I thought I might faint. I reached out and grabbed the edge of a table near the lobby chairs to hold myself up. My fingers gripped it so hard they hurt. I wanted to run. I wanted to run back to my car, drive away, pretend I never saw this, and cry where no one could watch me break. But my feet didn't move. Because deep down, another part of me woke up. A part I had been burying for years. A part that didn't want to hide anymore. They pulled apart. Daniel smiled and said something I couldn't hear. Then the woman glanced past him. Straight at me. Our eyes met. Her smile disappeared so fast it was almost scary. Her face went pale. Daniel noticed her reaction and turned his head. And then he saw me. His whole body went stiff. Like someone had poured cold water down his back. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't breathe. The woman stepped back a little, like she suddenly remembered she had a body and didn't know where to put it. Daniel took one slow step toward me. Claire, he said. Hearing my name from his mouth in that moment made me feel sick. My voice came out quieter than I expected. So this is the surprise, I asked. Daniel's eyes widened. His lips moved again, searching for the right lie, the right excuse, the right escape. It's not what it looks like, he said. I almost laughed. Almost. Because of course he said that. Every cheater says that. Every liar says that. It's the first line in their script. I looked at the woman. She avoided my eyes now. Her hands twisted together like she wished she could disappear into the floor. What's your name? I asked her. Daniel spoke quickly, like he could control the story if he talked fast enough. Claire, please, don't do this here. Here, I repeated. You mean where you decided to do it? My voice rose a little, and I saw the hotel receptionist glance up from the desk. Daniel's cheeks flushed. The woman finally whispered, I'm Olivia. Olivia. A normal name, a pretty name. I nodded slowly like I was collecting proof for my brain. Like if I said it out loud, it would become real. Well, Olivia, I said, my voice shaking, congratulations. Her eyes filled with tears. Please, she whispered, I didn't know. I snapped my head toward Daniel. She didn't know, I repeated. She didn't know you were married. She didn't know you have a wife who cooked your favorite dinner tonight and waited for you like a fool. Daniel reached for my arm. I stepped back so fast he didn't touch me. Don't, I said sharper now, don't touch me. Daniel's face shifted. Something darker flashed in his eyes. Annoyance. Not guilt. Not shame. Annoyance. Like I was the problem. Like I was ruining his evening. Can we talk in private? He asked through his teeth. In private, I repeated softly, so you can lie better. His jaw tightened. Olivia whispered, Daniel, I think I should go. Daniel didn't even look at her. He kept staring at me, like he was trying to figure out what version of me would appear next. The crying wife. The screaming wife. The silent wife. The wife who forgives. The wife who begs. He had known me for 8 years, but in that moment, I realized something painful. He didn't know me at all. Because I didn't even know myself anymore. I took a step forward. Daniel flinched like he expected me to slap him. But I didn't. I just looked him straight in the eyes. How long? I asked. His eyes darted away. Claire. How long? I repeated, slower, clearer. His throat moved as he swallowed. A few months, he admitted. A few months. My body went numb. I stared at him, hearing the words but not feeling them fully yet, like my heart was protecting me by freezing everything inside. And you were going to come home after this? I asked. You were going to sit under our Christmas tree with me after this? Daniel's face broke a little then. I didn't plan for you to find out like this, he said. That sentence almost made me laugh again. Because it told me everything. He didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't say, I messed up. He didn't say, I hurt you. He said, I didn't plan for you to find out. Meaning the plan was always to keep doing it. To keep lying. To keep pretending. I nodded slowly, like my brain was sealing the truth into a box. Then I looked at Olivia again. Are you happy, I asked her, now that you see what you're part of? Her lips trembled. I didn't know, she repeated, crying now. He told me you were separated. Daniel finally turned to her, angry. I never said that. Olivia stared at him like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. You did, she whispered. You told me you were living like roommates. You said she didn't care anymore. My stomach twisted. He talked about me like I was furniture. Like I was a boring background in his story. I looked at Daniel. Roommates, I repeated quietly. Daniel took another step toward me. Claire, please, you're making this bigger than it needs to be. That's when something in me snapped. Not into rage. Into clarity. I stared at him, my voice low and sharp. No, Daniel, you made it big when you put your mouth on someone else on Christmas Eve. His eyes widened. I could see he didn't like the public setting anymore. He didn't like the attention. He didn't like that his perfect image was cracking in front of strangers. I turned away. My legs felt weak, but I forced them to move. Daniel grabbed my wrist. That touch. That sudden grip. It made my skin crawl. Don't walk away, he said. We need to talk. I yanked my hand back hard. I'll talk, I said, but not here, not tonight, and not like you're in control. Daniel blinked. Olivia wiped her face, looking like she regretted every step she had taken. I looked at her one last time. Whatever he promised you, I said, voice steady, remember this moment. Remember how fast he lied when the truth showed up. Olivia's face crumpled. Then I walked out. Straight into the cold night. The air hit my face like a slap, and finally I could breathe again. But the second I reached my car, the tears came. Not soft tears. Ugly tears. The kind that shake your whole body. The kind that make you gasp for air like you're drowning. I sat behind the wheel and cried until my chest hurt. My hands shook so badly, I couldn't even put the key in the ignition. I kept seeing it. Daniel kissing her. His smile. His comfort. Like I meant nothing. The humiliation wrapped around my throat like a rope. Because the worst part wasn't only that he cheated. It was that he cheated on Christmas Eve. In a place where people were laughing and celebrating. While I was at home, trying to make life beautiful. I wiped my face with my sleeve, mascara smearing, and stared through the windshield. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Please come back, we need to talk. I stared at it for a long time. Then another buzz. Claire, don't do this, don't leave like this. Another. I love you. I felt something cold spread through my chest. He could type, "I love you," after kissing someone else in public. Like love was just a tool. Like words were just tape to cover broken things. I didn't respond. I drove home slowly, like my hands belonged to someone else. When I walked into our house, the warmth hit me first. The lights, the music still playing softly, the smell of cinnamon. Everything looked exactly the same. And yet nothing was the same. I stared at the Christmas tree, and it felt like it was mocking me. The gifts under it looked stupid now, like props in a lie. I walked into the kitchen and saw the dishes still stacked from dinner, the wine glasses, the half-eaten dessert. I had tried so hard. I had tried so hard to make a perfect Christmas. And he had given me a nightmare instead. My phone buzzed again. A call this time. Daniel's name flashed on the screen like an insult. I didn't answer. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. My hands moved without thinking. I pulled out a suitcase. The sight of it made my stomach drop, but I kept going. I started packing. Not everything. Just the essentials. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, my passport, my favorite sweater. My hands were steady now, even though my heart was breaking. Because something had shifted. I wasn't just crying anymore. I was waking up. As I zipped the suitcase, the front door opened. Daniel's voice called out. "Claire." My whole body tensed. Footsteps rushed down the hallway. He appeared in the doorway, breathing hard, hair messy, face pale. He looked panicked. Not because he hurt me. Because he got caught. "Why are you packing?" he demanded, like I was doing something wrong. I looked at him and felt a strange calm. "You already left," I said softly. "You just didn't move your stuff yet." Daniel's face twisted. "Don't be dramatic," he snapped. "This is fixable." Fixable. Like I was a cracked plate. Like my pain was a small issue. I lifted the suitcase and walked past him. He blocked my way. "Where are you going?" he asked, voice sharp. I looked up at him, and my voice came out clear. "To a place where I don't have to share my husband." His eyes widened like he couldn't believe I said that out loud. Then his voice dropped, almost threatening. "If you walk out that door, don't expect me to beg." I stared at him. And in that moment, I understood something that hit harder than anything else. This man did not love me. He loved control. He loved comfort. He loved having me waiting at home while he lived a secret life. And now that comfort was slipping away. He didn't want me because he valued me. He wanted me because he was used to me. I took a slow breath. Then I said the words that surprised even me. "I don't want you to beg." Daniel blinked, confused. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. "I want you to remember this," I said. "I want you to remember that on Christmas Eve you didn't just cheat, you showed me exactly who you are." His mouth opened, but no words came. I walked around him, dragged the suitcase to the front door, and opened it. Cold air rushed in. It felt clean. Real. Daniel followed me, his voice desperate now. "Claire, please, you're making a mistake." I turned back one last time. And I looked him straight in the eyes. "No," I said, "my mistake was staying blind." Then I walked out. I drove to Clara's house. I didn't even call first. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into her arms. And that's when I finally broke again. Because being held by someone who truly cared felt like remembering what safety was. That night, I lay on her couch under a blanket, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed again and again, but I didn't look. Because I knew what part 3 of my life was going to be. I didn't know how I would survive this. I didn't know how I would rebuild. But one thing was clear now. I was not going back to the woman who begged for love. And as I closed my eyes, a thought hit me sharp and strong. He thought this would destroy me. But he had no idea what he just started. I didn't sleep that night. I closed my eyes, but my mind stayed wide open, replaying the same scene again and again. Daniel's mouth on her. His smile. The way he looked like he belonged there with her, while I stood frozen like a stranger watching my own life get stolen. Clara's living room was warm, but I felt cold inside. Her Christmas lights blinked softly on the wall, and the quiet Christmas music from a neighbor's house drifted through the window like a cruel joke. Christmas Eve. The night I used to love. Now it felt like the night the universe grabbed my heart with both hands and squeezed until it cracked. Clara had offered me her bed, but I said no. I didn't want to be alone in a room. I wanted to stay where I could hear someone breathing nearby, where I could remind myself I was still alive. I lay on her couch under a thick blanket, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed again. And again. And again. I didn't need to look, I knew it was Daniel. Begging, ordering, switching between sweet words and sharp threats. He always did that when things didn't go his way. Clara had told me, "Turn it off, Claire." But I couldn't. A part of me needed to see what he would say next. Like my heart was still waiting for him to act like a husband. Like my brain was still trying to find the Daniel I thought I married. So finally, I picked it up. "Daniel, where are you? Daniel, you embarrassed me." I stared at that one for a long time. He embarrassed himself. But somehow he had already flipped the story, like he always did. Like I was the problem for reacting to his betrayal. My throat tightened. Another message came. "Daniel, I'm coming to get you. This is ridiculous." My stomach dropped. Clara was in the kitchen making tea. I sat up quickly, blanket sliding off my shoulders. "Clara," I called, my voice shaky. "He says he's coming here." Clara walked in, mug in her hand, eyes sharp. "Let him come," she said. "He will not step one foot inside." I looked at her like she was made of steel. "How are you so calm?" I whispered. She sat beside me and held my hand. "Because I'm not the one married to him," she said softly. "But I love you, and I'm not letting him scare you." That word hit me. Scare. Was I scared? Yes. Not of his fists. Daniel was not that kind of man. But I was scared of his mouth. His voice. His power to twist reality until I questioned my own memory. I had spent years telling myself he was a good man, a loyal man, a man who loved me. And now the truth was sitting in my lap, heavy and ugly, and I didn't know how to hold it. Clara squeezed my hand. "Listen to me," she said. "You saw what you saw. Do not let him talk you out of your own eyes." I nodded, but my lips trembled. Outside, the wind pushed snow against the window. The world was quiet, like it didn't know my marriage had just died. But inside me, everything was loud. The morning after. When the sun finally rose, it didn't feel like Christmas morning. It felt like a punishment. Clara made pancakes, trying to keep things normal. She didn't force me to talk. She didn't ask for details. She just stayed close, like her presence was a wall between me and the storm. I sat at her table, staring at the plate. The smell of food turned my stomach. I kept seeing the Christmas tree in my house, the gifts, the ornaments, the turkey I cooked. I had worked so hard to create warmth. And Daniel used that same night to break me. My phone buzzed again. Clara reached for it, but I shook my head. "No," I said, "let me see." I needed to know what he was doing. I needed to prepare myself. I opened the messages. "Daniel, if you don't come back now, don't bother coming back at all." I felt my chest tighten. There it was. Not love. Not regret. Control. He wasn't scared of losing me. He was scared of losing the version of me that stayed. Clara watched my face. "What did he say?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "He's acting like I'm the villain." Clara's eyes narrowed. "That's his favorite role. Make you the villain so he can feel innocent." I exhaled slowly. My fingers shook around the phone. Another message came. "Daniel, my parents are asking where you are. What am I supposed to say?" I stared at that and felt something heavy drop in my stomach. His parents. Of course. Daniel cared deeply about image. Holidays were his stage. He liked to play the perfect husband, the perfect man. I could already imagine him at his parents' home, acting sad and confused, telling them I overreacted. Then I saw the next message. "Daniel, Olivia is nothing. You're blowing this up." My throat burned. Nothing. A woman he kissed in a hotel lobby on Christmas Eve was nothing. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. Clara stood too. Claire, breathe. I pressed my hands to my face. My whole body felt like it was buzzing, like electricity under my skin. I can't believe he's doing this, I said through a broken laugh. He cheated, and he's still talking like I owe him peace. Clara moved closer. Because you always gave him peace, she said gently, even when he didn't deserve it. That sentence hit me like truth. I had spent years smoothing everything over, saying it's fine when it was, smiling when I wanted to scream, staying quiet when I wanted to ask hard questions. I had trained him. I had trained him to believe I would always return. Clara touched my shoulder. What do you want to do? I stared at the wall. I didn't know. I felt like a small child who got lost in a crowded place. I need my things, I whispered. My documents, my laptop, my clothes. Clara nodded. Then we go get them together. My stomach twisted. What if he's there? Clara's voice was firm. Then he sees you're not alone. I swallowed. Not alone. That felt new. Walking back into my old life. We drove to my house late morning. The streets were full of families, kids holding candy canes, couples carrying gifts, people smiling. It made me angry. How could the world be celebrating when I felt like I was falling apart? When we pulled into my driveway, my hands started shaking again. Clara turned off the engine. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. I stared at the front door. My home. The place I had built. The place that suddenly felt like a lie. I have to, I whispered. We walked up to the door. Clara stood close beside me, like a bodyguard, like a shield. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The Christmas tree lights were still on. That sight hit me harder than I expected. The house looked untouched, like last night never happened. Like Daniel could walk in at any moment, smile and say, "Merry Christmas, babe." I felt tears rise. Then I heard footsteps. My heart jumped. Daniel appeared from the hallway, wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt, like he had been lounging peacefully in the same house where he shattered me. He froze when he saw Clara. His eyes narrowed. "Really?" he said. "You brought an audience." Clara didn't flinch. She brought support. Daniel laughed cold and sharp. Support for what? Her drama. I felt my chest tighten, but I forced my voice to come out. "I'm here for my things." Daniel stared at me like I was a stranger. "You're seriously leaving over one mistake?" he asked. "One mistake." I laughed softly, but it wasn't humor. It was pain. "One mistake is forgetting milk at the store," I said, voice shaking. "You planned this, you hid this, you kissed her like you were proud." Daniel's face tightened. "You don't know the whole story," he snapped. Clara stepped forward a little. "Then tell it." Daniel's eyes flashed. "This is between me and my wife." Clara's voice stayed calm. "Then speak to your wife with respect." Daniel looked at me then, really looked. His voice dropped, like he was trying a new approach. "Claire," he said softly, "come on, it was a stupid thing, it didn't mean anything. We can fix this." That almost worked. Because for a split second, I saw the old Daniel. The charming Daniel, the man who knew exactly what tone to use to make me doubt myself. But then my mind replayed the kiss. The hotel lobby. Olivia's face. And the way Daniel told me it was nothing. I stepped back. "No," I said quietly, "I'm not doing this." Daniel's jaw clenched. "What are you doing then, running away to your friend like a child?" Clara opened her mouth, but I raised my hand slightly. This was mine. I took a breath. "I'm not running," I said. "I'm stepping away from someone who thinks betrayal is a small problem." Daniel scoffed. "Oh, please, you're acting like I murdered someone." My stomach turned. He didn't understand the damage because it wasn't happening to him. He didn't feel the humiliation. The shame. The way my heart kept asking, why wasn't I enough? I walked past him, heading toward the bedroom. Daniel followed me, talking fast. "We had problems, Claire. You were distant too. You were always tired. You were always busy." I stopped in the hallway and turned. "What?" I said, voice sharp. Daniel shrugged. "It's true, you weren't exactly a perfect wife." Clara inhaled sharply behind me. My hands started shaking again, but this time not from fear. From anger. Are you blaming me? I asked. Daniel's eyes went cold. I'm saying you're not innocent. That was the moment I truly saw him. Not the husband. Not the partner. Just a man trying to escape consequences by throwing dirt on the person he hurt. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said softly. Okay, now I understand. Daniel frowned. Understand what? I looked him straight in the eyes. That you're not sorry, I said. You're just scared you're losing comfort. His mouth opened, but no words came. I turned and walked into the bedroom. The humiliation gets worse. As I packed, I found something on the dresser. A small gift bag. It wasn't mine. It was pastel pink with a silver ribbon. My heart dropped. I pointed at it. What is that? I asked. Daniel's eyes flickered. It's nothing, he said quickly. Nothing again. I walked closer and opened the bag. Inside was a bracelet. A delicate one with tiny diamonds. My stomach turned. I slowly lifted it out, holding it between my fingers like it was poison. You bought her a Christmas gift, I whispered. Daniel's face hardened. It's not like that. I laughed, but it was broken. It's exactly like that. Clara stepped closer, eyes wide. I turned the bracelet in my hand. I remembered how Daniel gave me a scarf. A scarf. And he bought Olivia diamonds. My vision blurred. That hit deeper than the kiss. Because it meant he didn't just cheat. He invested. He planned. He chose. I felt humiliation crawl up my throat like acid. I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to cry in front of him. Daniel crossed his arms, put it down. I looked at him, no. His voice rose, put it down, Claire. Clara stepped in, do not talk to her like that. Daniel snapped, stay out of it. Then he turned back to me and lowered his voice, like a warning. Stop acting crazy. Crazy. There it was. The word men use when women refuse to stay quiet. I stared at him, my face calm even though my heart was shaking. I'm not crazy, I said softly. I'm awake. Daniel's face twisted. He hated that. Because awake meant I was not controllable anymore. I set the bracelet back in the bag and left it on the dresser. Then I continued packing. Daniel stood in the doorway, watching like he didn't believe it was real. You'll regret this, he said quietly. I didn't respond. Because part of me did feel fear. Not fear of him. Fear of the unknown. Fear of life without the marriage I built. Fear of the loneliness. But another part of me, a stronger part, whispered something louder. Better alone than betrayed. The first real choice. When I finished packing, I carried the suitcase toward the front door. Daniel followed me again, voice softer, almost pleading. Claire, think about what you're doing. It's Christmas. We can talk tomorrow. Don't destroy our family over a mistake. I stopped and turned. Our family? I asked quietly. Daniel nodded. Yes, us. I stared at him, and my voice came out steady. You destroyed us the moment you decided I didn't deserve the truth, I said. You destroyed us when you smiled at me while hiding her. Daniel's eyes watered for a second. But I didn't trust his tears. Not anymore. Because even now, he wasn't saying the words that mattered. He wasn't saying, I'm sorry. He wasn't saying, I hurt you. He was saying, don't leave. Because he wanted comfort. He wanted the house, the tree, the wife, the image. He wanted me to stay quiet and swallow the pain like I always did. I looked at him and realized something that changed me. If I stayed, I would teach him he can do this again. And I was done teaching men that I can survive disrespect. I lifted the suitcase handle. I'm leaving, I said. Daniel's face went hard again. Fine, he snapped, go. I nodded. Okay, I said. And I opened the door. The cold air rushed in again. It felt like freedom. I stepped outside. Clara followed. As we walked down the driveway, Daniel called out from behind us, voice sharp and loud. You'll come crawling back, you always do. I froze. My stomach clenched. That was the deepest insult. Not because it hurt, but because it revealed what he truly believed about me. That I would always return. That I had no spine. That I was a woman who could be broken and still stay. I turned slowly. Daniel stood at the doorway, arms crossed, face tight. The Christmas lights behind him made him look like a fake picture of a husband. I stared at him, and I said something I never said in 8 years. No. Just one word. Simple. Clean. Final. Daniel blinked like he didn't understand. But I did. I got into Clara's car, and as she drove away, I looked out the window at the house shrinking behind us. The tree. The lights. The life I built. I didn't know what was coming next. But I knew one thing. I was not going back to sleep. Ending of part 3. That night at Clara's, I finally cried again, but differently. Not like a woman begging the world to bring her husband back. Like a woman grieving the death of a lie. Because now the lie was dead. And the truth was alive. And the truth was painful, but it was also powerful. As I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling again, Clara's words came back to me. You saw what you saw. Do not let him talk you out of your own eyes. I whispered into the dark, like a promise to myself. I won't. And that was the moment I understood something shocking. Daniel thought he was my ending. But he was only my beginning. Because what he didn't know yet was that the truth wasn't finished coming out. Not even close. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Clara moving around the kitchen. For a second, I forgot. For a second, my body felt normal. Then my mind caught up, and the memory hit me like a punch. Hotel lobby, kiss, Olivia, the bracelet, Daniel's voice calling me crazy. My chest tightened again. I sat up slowly on Clara's couch, pulling the blanket closer around my shoulders. My eyes were swollen from crying. My throat felt sore, like I had swallowed broken glass. Clara walked in with a mug and placed it gently on the table. Drink, she said, even if it's just 2 sips. I nodded and held the mug with both hands, not because I wanted it, but because my hands needed something to grip. Clara sat beside me. She didn't speak right away. She just sat with me, quiet, steady. I realized that was the first real comfort I had felt in a long time. Not the fake comfort Daniel used to give, words with no meaning. This was real. Finally, Clara spoke. Tell me the truth, she said softly. Not his truth, yours. I stared into the coffee. My truth, I whispered. Clara nodded. Yes, because right now you're still shocked, you're still bleeding, but you're also awake. And this is the moment that decides everything. I swallowed. Then slowly, I said what I had been too scared to admit out loud. I feel embarrassed, I said. Clara didn't react, she just listened. I feel stupid, I continued. Like I was the last person to know, like everyone else could see it, and I was sitting at home making Christmas dinner like a fool. Clara reached for my hand. You are not a fool, she said firmly. You are a loyal person. He used your loyalty as a weapon. That sentence landed in my chest. Loyalty as a weapon. I took a deep breath, and my eyes burned again. He looked so comfortable, I whispered. That's what hurts the most. He didn't look guilty. He didn't look scared. He looked like he belonged there with her. Clara's grip tightened. Because he has been living in a lie for a long time. Liars get comfortable inside their lies. I nodded, but my mind was racing. Clara, I said, voice shaking, what if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough to leave for real? Clara stared at me like she was offended by the question. Claire, she said, you already left. You already did the hardest part. Now comes the part where you don't go back. I looked down at my hands. They were still shaking a little. I had never thought of myself as weak. I handled everything in life. Bills, work, family issues, holidays, plans, problems, I always handled things. But heartbreak was different. Betrayal made you question your own reality. It made you wonder if you ever knew the person you loved. It made you wonder if love was ever real. Clara leaned closer. Can I tell you something? She asked. I nodded. I've wanted to say it for years, she admitted, but I stayed quiet because I didn't want to lose you or make you hate me. My stomach tightened. What? Clara hesitated. Daniel wasn't good to you, Claire, not for a long time. My throat went dry. He never hit you, she continued quickly, but he controlled you in small ways. He decided what mattered. He decided what your feelings were worth, and you kept shrinking yourself to keep him calm. I stared at her. I wanted to defend him. The old me would have defended him. But the image of the bracelet flashed in my mind, and something inside me stayed silent. Because Clara was right. I had been shrinking for years. I swallowed hard. I don't even know who I am without him, I whispered. Clara shook her head gently. Yes, you do, she said. You just haven't met her again yet. The first real step. That day, I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened my laptop. Not for work. For myself. I logged into our shared accounts. Banking, bills, subscriptions, the mortgage. Things Daniel always told me not to stress about. You don't need to look at that, he used to say. I handle it. Like I was a child. Like I wasn't capable. I used to believe that was love. Now I understood it was control. My fingers hovered over the screen as I opened the joint bank account. My heart dropped. There were charges I didn't recognize. Restaurants I had never been to. A jewelry store purchase from 2 weeks ago. Hotel charges. Not just last night. Multiple times. My throat tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. This wasn't one mistake. This was a second life. I scrolled further. More payments, more hidden spending. Then I saw it. A large transfer. From our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize. My hands went numb. Clara, I said quietly. She came over and leaned behind me. What? I pointed. Her face changed instantly. Claire, she whispered, how much is that? I stared at the number. It was money we had saved for years. Money I thought was safe. Money we planned to use for a future. A future that Daniel was already trading away. I felt a cold wave rush through me. He didn't just cheat on me. He was taking from me. Clara stepped back and grabbed her phone. What are you doing? I asked. Calling my cousin, she said. He's a lawyer, not a wait-and-see lawyer. A protect-yourself-now lawyer. My heart pounded. Clara, I don't want drama. Clara looked at me sharply. Claire, she said, he already created drama. You're just trying to survive it. That shut me up. She made the call. Within an hour, I was sitting at Clara's dining table on speakerphone with her cousin, Amir. He sounded calm, professional, serious. Claire, he said, I'm going to ask you some direct questions, and I need you to answer honestly, even if it hurts. I swallowed. Okay. Do you have any proof of the affair? He asked. My stomach twisted. I saw him. That's important, Amir said. But we also need financial proof if he's spending shared money. Do you have access to statements? Yes, I whispered. I just found a lot. Good, Amir said. Screenshot everything. Save it somewhere Daniel can't access. Email it to yourself, and do not tell him you know yet. My heart raced. Why? Because people who are cheating and hiding money panic when they get exposed, Amir replied. And panic makes people do worse things. Clara squeezed my shoulder like she was saying, listen. Amir continued. Next, I want you to open a new bank account in your name only. Move your paycheck there. Do not keep your income in joint accounts anymore. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. And Claire, he added, you need to think of your safety and stability first. Not your reputation, not his feelings, not Christmas, not what his parents will say. His words hit hard. Because for years, I had cared about what people would say. I cared about being the good wife. The nice woman. The understanding partner. But where did that get me? Nowhere. It got me betrayed in a hotel lobby. It got me diamonds in another woman's gift bag. It got me called crazy for noticing the truth. Amir finished with one final sentence that stuck to my bones. Claire, you don't owe kindness to someone who is actively harming you. When the call ended, I sat there shaking. Clara poured me water. I feel like I'm dreaming, I whispered. Clara's voice was gentle. No, you're waking up. The humiliation turns into fuel. That night, after Clara went to bed, I sat alone in the living room. The house was quiet again. But this time, the quiet didn't feel like pain. It felt like space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to finally tell myself the truth. I replayed every moment of the last year. Daniel coming home late. Daniel hiding his phone. Daniel calling me too sensitive. Daniel making me feel guilty for asking questions. Daniel saying I didn't need to worry about money because he handled it. I saw it all differently now. It wasn't love. It was a system. A system designed to keep me dependent. And suddenly, my humiliation didn't feel like poison anymore. It felt like fuel. Because the truth was ugly, yes. But it was also clear. And clarity is powerful. I walked to the bathroom, stared at myself in the mirror, and barely recognized the woman looking back. Her eyes were tired. But there was something else there now. A spark. A quiet anger. Not wild, not messy. Focused. I leaned closer to the mirror and whispered, I will not beg him to respect me. My throat tightened. I whispered again, I will not compete for my own husband. And then, the biggest one. I will not go back to a life where I have to shrink to be loved. The words shook me, because saying them felt like stepping into a new skin. I didn't know what the future would look like, but I knew what it would not look like. It would not look like Daniel. The trap Daniel didn't expect. The next day, Daniel called me. I didn't answer. He called again. I let it ring. Then he texted, Daniel, we need to talk. This has gone too far. Too far. Like I was the problem. Then another text. Daniel, my mom is crying. You're ruining Christmas. I stared at that message and felt something cold in my chest. He was trying to pull me back using guilt. He wasn't asking if I was okay. He wasn't apologizing. He was using his mother like a rope. Clara walked in and saw my face. What did he say now? She asked. I showed her the screen. Clara scoffed, classic. I exhaled slowly. For the first time, I didn't feel pulled. I felt amused. Not in a funny way. In a clear way. Like I finally saw the pattern. Daniel always used guilt. Always used pressure. Always used other people. Because he knew I cared. He knew I hated conflict. He knew I didn't want to be seen as difficult. So he relied on that. But he didn't know something. He didn't know I had found the bank transfers. He didn't know I had screenshots. He didn't know I had started protecting myself. He didn't know the quiet woman he used to control was waking up into someone else. Someone who wouldn't be pulled by guilt anymore. I typed a reply. I'm safe, I'll contact you when I'm ready. Then I blocked him. My hand shook as I did it. But when it was done, something in my chest loosened. Clara smiled, there she is. I looked at her, who? Clara pointed at me, the woman he underestimated. A new plan. Over the next week, I didn't just cry. I acted. I opened a new bank account. I moved my paycheck. I gathered documents, marriage certificate, house papers, savings records. I created a folder on a private drive and uploaded screenshots. I wrote down dates I remembered. Hotel night. Bracelet. Transfers. Every detail. It felt strange, like I was building a case, not a life. But I realized something important. This was my life. And I was finally protecting it. Every step I took gave me a little more confidence. Not big confidence. Not movie-style confidence. Real confidence. The kind that builds quietly in the bones. One evening, while I was organizing papers, Clara asked me, how do you feel? I paused. How did I feel? I expected to say, sad. I expected to say, broken. But instead, I surprised myself. I feel steady, I admitted. Clara smiled, good, that's strength. I nodded slowly. Steady didn't mean I wasn't hurt. It meant the hurt wasn't driving anymore. I was. The cliffhanger truth. Just when I thought I had found the worst of it, something happened that made my stomach turn again. I was checking one of the statements more carefully when I saw a name. Not Olivia. Another name. A charge labeled Gift Delivery, Rosewood Suites. And beside it, a note on the transaction details. Happy anniversary. My throat went dry. Anniversary. Our anniversary was in September. This charge was from October. I stared at it, my hands going numb. Clara came over. What is it? She asked. I pointed without speaking. Her eyes widened. Claire, she whispered. I swallowed hard. There's more. Clara's face tightened. You think Olivia isn't the only one? I didn't answer. Because deep down, I already knew. The affair wasn't just a secret. It was a lifestyle. And suddenly, the title of my story felt sharper than ever. My husband's Christmas surprise. Because now I understood. Christmas wasn't the beginning of his betrayal. It was just the day I finally caught it. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen. And I whispered the scariest truth of all. I don't even know who I married. That night, I didn't cry the same way. I didn't cry like a woman who wanted her husband back. I cried like a woman who realized she had been living inside a lie. But when the tears stopped, something stayed behind. Not weakness. Not fear. A plan. And a promise. Because the next part wasn't about collapse anymore. The next part was about my comeback. And Daniel was about to learn something he never expected. When you break the wrong woman, she doesn't beg. She builds. If you're ready, say, write part 5, and I'll continue with the rebuild, the first wins, and the moment Claire starts turning her pain into power while Daniel begins to lose control. Something strange happened after I found the second name. After the shock settled, after the fear passed, after the tears dried, I stopped shaking. For the first time since Christmas Eve, I felt calm. Not happy, not relieved. Clear. The truth had finally burned through every excuse I ever made for Daniel. There was no maybe, no misunderstanding, no bad phase. This wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern. And patterns don't change unless they're forced to. That realization didn't crush me. It freed me. The quiet strength no one sees. People think strength looks loud. Like yelling, like slamming doors, like dramatic speeches. But real strength is quiet. It's waking up, putting your feet on the floor, and choosing yourself when everything in you wants comfort instead. It's doing paperwork while your heart hurts. It's making plans when your future feels blurry. It's not calling the person who broke you, even when your chest aches to hear their voice. That week, I became quiet strong. I woke up early every morning at Clara's house. I made my bed, I drank water, I wrote lists. Small things. But small things add up. I contacted HR at my job and updated my direct deposit to my new account. My hands shook as I typed the email, but I pressed send anyway. I scheduled a meeting with a financial advisor. I booked a therapy appointment, even though part of me wanted to pretend I was fine. Because I wasn't fine. I was healing. And healing requires honesty. Facing myself without distraction. One afternoon, Clara went out to run errands, and I was alone in the house. No TV. No music. No noise. Just me. I sat on the couch, staring at my hands, and asked myself a question I had avoided for years. How did I let this happen? The answer wasn't simple. It was because I'm weak. It was because I'm stupid. It was because I loved deeply. Because I believed in commitment. Because I thought loyalty meant endurance. I remembered moments I brushed off. The time Daniel laughed when I cried. The time he told me I was too emotional. The time he rolled his eyes when I asked for reassurance. The time he said, "You always overthink things." I had been trained to doubt myself. And I let it happen because I wanted peace. But peace without respect is just silence. And silence almost destroyed me. I whispered to myself, tears falling freely now. I trusted him because I trusted love. That wasn't shameful. That was human. The first win. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. I received an email from the bank. A fraud alert. One of the accounts Daniel had transferred money into had been flagged for unusual activity. My heart jumped. I forwarded the email to Amir immediately. He called me within minutes. "Claire," he said, "this is good." "Good? How is this good?" I asked. "Because it creates a record," he explained, "and records protect you." Protect. That word felt powerful. Daniel had always acted like he controlled everything. The money, the house, the story. But now the system was watching him. And he didn't even know it yet. That was my first real win. Quiet. Invisible. But strong. Daniel starts to panic. The messages started again. From new numbers. From email. From social media. Daniel was blocked everywhere, but he kept finding ways. At first, they were angry. "You're ruining my life. This is insane. You're acting like a victim." Then they turned soft. "I miss you. We had good years. You're throwing everything away." I didn't reply. Because I finally understood something. Every message was about him. Not one asked how I was doing. Not one acknowledged the pain. Not one said, "I hurt you." And then one message stood out. "I need you to talk to me before things get worse." Worse. That word made my stomach drop. I showed it to Clara. She raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like fear." It was. Daniel was losing control. And men like Daniel don't handle that well. Reclaiming my identity. One morning, I went shopping. Not for clothes. For a haircut. It sounds small. But it was. For years, Daniel liked my hair long. He always said, "Don't cut it, I like it that way." So I kept it long. Even when I wanted something different. That day, I sat in the salon chair and told the stylist. "Cut it." She smiled. "How much?" "Enough," I said. When I looked in the mirror afterward, I didn't see a new woman. I saw the old me. The one who existed before I learned to shrink. I cried in the car afterward, not because I was sad. Because I felt free. The power of saying nothing. People expect explanations. They want statements. They want drama. I gave none. When Daniel's mother called, I didn't answer. When mutual friends asked, "What happened?" I said, "I'm taking care of myself." And nothing more. At first, it felt uncomfortable. I was used to explaining. Defending. Justifying. But silence did something powerful. It forced people to see the truth without my help. Daniel had no story without me playing my role. And without my silence covering him, cracks started to show. The day I returned home. 2 weeks after Christmas, I went back to the house. Not to stay. To assess. Clara came with me again. Daniel wasn't there. I walked through every room slowly. The couch where we used to watch movies. The kitchen where I cooked his favorite meals. The bedroom where I cried quietly so he wouldn't be annoyed. I didn't feel longing. I felt distance. Like I was walking through a museum of a life that no longer belonged to me. Then I saw it. In the office drawer. An envelope. Inside were printed emails. Hotel confirmations. Receipts. Dates. Names. Not just 2 women. More. My knees almost gave out. Clara caught me before I fell. "This isn't about you," she said firmly. "This is about him." I nodded, shaking. But deep down, something solid formed. This man didn't betray me. He betrayed the idea of loyalty itself. And I would not carry his shame. The shift inside me. That night back at Clara's, I lay in bed and felt something new. Not sadness. Not rage. Resolve. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was deciding. I decided I would not rush. I decided I would not beg. I decided I would not negotiate my dignity. I decided my healing would not be quiet just to make him comfortable. And most importantly, I decided I would win my life back. Not to punish him, but to honor myself. My first real smile. A few days later, I went to my therapy appointment. I expected to cry the whole time. Instead, I talked. I talked about love, about boundaries, about how women are taught to endure instead of demand respect. When the session ended, my therapist asked, "What do you want now?" I didn't hesitate. "I want peace," I said. "And what does peace look like to you?" I smiled, my first real smile in weeks. "It looks like never questioning my worth again. The line I will never cross again." That night, Daniel sent one last message before I blocked the new number 2. "If you come back now, we can forget everything." I stared at it for a long time. Then I whispered aloud, just to hear it in the room. No. I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared. I was done. Because forgetting everything is how women disappear. And I was finally here. Fully, I didn't know what the future would bring. Legal battles. Hard conversations. Lonely nights. But I knew one thing with complete certainty. I was no longer the woman who stayed quiet to keep love. I was the woman who chose truth over comfort. And Daniel. He thought losing me was temporary. He had no idea it was permanent. Because the next part of my story wasn't about survival anymore. It was about transformation. And I was just getting started. I didn't wake up one morning feeling healed. Healing didn't arrive like a sunrise. It arrived quietly in pieces. In the way my chest no longer tightened when my phone buzzed. In the way I could say Daniel's name without my voice shaking. In the way silence stopped feeling scary and started feeling peaceful. Weeks passed. Then months. And somewhere between paperwork, therapy sessions, legal meetings, and long walks alone, I realized something shocking. I was no longer surviving. I was living. The final conversation. The last time I saw Daniel was in a small office with beige walls and a ticking clock that sounded too loud. A mediator sat between us. Daniel looked thinner, tired. His confidence had cracks in it now. Not because he missed me. Because he was losing control. He kept glancing at me, like he expected the old version of me to show up. The one who apologized. The one who softened. The one who made things easier for him. But she was gone. When the mediator asked if either of us wanted to speak, Daniel cleared his throat. "I just want to say," he began, "that I never meant for things to go this far." I looked at him calmly. He continued, "We both made mistakes. We could have handled things better." There it was. The shared blame. The diluted truth. I waited. Then I spoke. Slow, clear, steady. "Cheating wasn't a misunderstanding," I said. "Lying wasn't an accident. Taking shared money wasn't confusion." Daniel shifted in his chair. "I didn't make this go far," I continued. "I stopped carrying your choices for you." The room went quiet. The mediator nodded and wrote something down. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time in our marriage, he had nothing to say. And for the first time in my life, I didn't need him to. Walking away for the last time. After that meeting, I walked out of the building alone. No tears. No shaking. Just a deep breath and the feeling of finality. I sat in my car and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. Not because I was sad. Because I was proud. I had faced the man who broke me, and he no longer had power over my body, my voice, or my future. I started the engine and drove away. And that was it. No dramatic goodbye. No closing speech. Just a woman choosing peace. Building a life that fits me. I moved into a small apartment a few weeks later. It wasn't big. It wasn't fancy. But it was mine. I chose everything in it. The couch. The colors. The plants near the window. Nothing in that space existed to please someone else. I slept better than I had in years. Not because life was perfect, but because it was honest. I started cooking again, not full holiday meals, but simple food that felt good. I played music while cleaning. I laughed more. I felt lighter. The unexpected gift of freedom. One evening, while folding laundry, it hit me. I hadn't thought about Olivia or the other women in days. Not with anger. Not with curiosity. Not with pain. They were no longer part of my story. And neither was Daniel. That realization felt like a door closing gently behind me. No slam. No echo. Just quiet. The woman in the mirror. One morning, I caught my reflection in the mirror as I brushed my teeth. I paused. She looked different. Not younger. Not prettier. Stronger. Her eyes were clearer. Her shoulders were relaxed. She wasn't waiting. She wasn't hopping. She wasn't afraid. I smiled at her. And for the first time in a long time, I liked what I saw. What I learned. I learned that love without respect is just control wearing a nice mask. I learned that staying quiet doesn't make you kind, it makes you invisible. I learned that betrayal hurts, but self-betrayal hurts more. And I learned that walking away doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it means you finally chose yourself. The new Christmas. The next Christmas came quietly. No big tree. No forced smiles. Just a small string of lights by the window. Clara came over with takeout. We laughed. We toasted. We talked about the future. And at midnight, as snow fell outside, I felt something warm settle in my chest. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because nothing was fake anymore. The empowering truth. If you're listening to this story and you're hurting right now, I want you to hear this. You don't need closure from the person who hurt you. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to apologize the right way. You need to understand you. You need to choose you. Because the moment you stop begging for love that hurts, you make space for love that heals. My final words. My husband thought Christmas would be my breaking point. He thought betrayal would crush me. He thought I would beg, forgive, disappear. He was wrong. Because I didn't lose a husband. I lost a lie. And in its place, I found myself. Whole. Aware. Unbreakable. And if this story reaches the right woman at the right time, let it remind you. Walking away isn't weakness. It's power. And sometimes, the greatest gift you'll ever receive is the truth.